Welcome to another episode of How I Am Building This. Today we have Zach from Mobley. In this episode, we will learn more about Zach, the business, how he's thinking about growth, and some of his challenges, of course, that he's trying to overcome. Zach, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. How are you?
I am fantastic. No problem at all. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, it's been a good day.
Awesome. Zach, before we jump into Mobley, I'd love to learn more about you. Who's Zach? Where did you grow up? And what really got you into sales?
Yeah, I grew up all over the U.S. I was born in Idaho, spent some time in upstate New York as a kid, and lived 4 years in Denver. And then ultimately my family settled in Utah when I was 11. So I grew up in Lehi, Utah. Lehi is now like the heartbeat of the tech boom in Utah. And I went to Lehi High School. It's crazy. Our office is in Lehi. I look out the window and I see the neighborhood that I grew up in with my co-founder. We're best friends of 30 years.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's been fun. Outside of work, my wife Erica and I, today is our 15th anniversary.
Congratulations.
We have 5 children. Thank you. Yeah, 5 kids ranging from 13 to 5 years old. So most of my free time really isn't my free time. It's time for dad to be with them, coach sports teams, play in the backyard, go to the pool, things like that. I do enjoy mountain biking. I enjoy running, and currently training for a marathon.
That's amazing. I am a dad to 2 girls, and I know 2 is such a handful. And I cannot even imagine what 5 must be like. I mean, hats off to you. I'm sure that you have everything figured out.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and it's definitely the best thing I ever did, but the most expensive and chaotic thing I ever did as well.
That's for sure, Zach. That you mentioned that that you met your co-founder, and and you all have been friends for the last 30 years. Friendship aside, how did you know that he was the right person to to essentially build a business with?
We have very complementary skill sets. So my background is in building and leading sales teams, primarily in startup environments. I've spent some time at bigger companies. I worked for a publicly traded company for 3 years and for a private equity firm for 3 years. But outside of that, it's been early stage stuff. And his background is in product and engineering, primarily at larger companies. So we balance each other out really well, have different ways that we like to think about the world, but at the same time, we get along and respect each other so much that it was just a perfect balance.
That's amazing. I saw that you recently raised like a $2.5 million seed round.
Mm-hmm.
How did you all decide that these were some of the VCs that that you all wanted to work with?
How did we decide which ones we wanted to work with?
Yes.
So Peterson Ventures was our lead investor. They're based here in Utah. They have another office in San Francisco. But myself, my co-founder, and our CTO have all worked in their portfolio multiple times, either as founders of other companies or executives, and just had nothing but great things to say about them. They're a very truly founder-friendly VC. Every VC says they are founder-friendly, but they have a reputation for being very unemotional and neutral and just supportive. Once they are in, they support you and keep cool heads even during tough times, which is great. So we knew we wanted to work with them from day one. We had several other investors get involved as well. A couple of them were from my cold outreach because they had good reputations and I liked what they stood for. Others were through our own networks, and we've been working with them for a long time, and they decided to come in on the round but couldn't lead it. So it was a mix of everything, but Peterson being our largest investor, we knew that we wanted to work with people of that caliber. They've got a good name, they've had good successes, and they support their founders.
That's amazing. On your website, you say capture every lead, close more deals. What is the pain that you're solving, and for whom?
So in my background as now a recovering VP of sales, I built my reputation for being a very data-driven leader. Like I need to know what the inputs are to get the outputs that we need. How many calls does this sales rep need to make in order to get one person on the phone? And how many conversations in order to get one demo booked? How many demos booked equal a hold, equal an op, equal closed one? Like I need to know everything. I need to know average deal sizes and so forth. All of that discipline completely falls apart with field work, conferences, trade shows, in-person sales, because you don't have your laptop in front of you doing everything automated in the background, right? There's so many cool tools out there that help automate a salesperson and a marketing person's role, and they just don't work well off of your cell phone or in person. So as a result, going to a conference or a trade show becomes a very manual process of using a third-party badge scanner and then exporting that data and then paying somebody else to enrich that data, matching it with your fields, uploading it, deduping it, assigning it out. That process is just so clunky, time-consuming, expensive, that it takes the average company 11 days from when they shake somebody's hand to when they're able to make their first follow-up call.
Oh, wow.
And people don't remember you. Like the average human attention span is 8.25 seconds. So if they are forgetting about me a few seconds after I meet them, and I'm not following up for almost 2 weeks, the chances that I keep them interested and win that deal are significantly lower than they should be. So the idea for Mobley is a universal lead retrieval app that any user can use anywhere. A giant conference like Dreamforce or a small lunch and learn, or even sitting next to somebody on an airplane. All you need is either an attendee badge like this, or a business card, or you just need to know what their name and company name is. And you can just type in their name and company name. Mobley enriches 20 plus fields of contact information and pushes it right to your CRM within a few minutes of you meeting them, so that you can kick off your follow-up. And if you're doing your job the right way, you know, hit them with an automated email and a LinkedIn connection request right then. So you can stay at top of mind, stand out from all of the other people that are trying to compete for their attention, and do it in a uniform way, no matter how many events you do.
Wow, that is so interesting. So how did you go about winning your first few customers that were willing to pay you to solve their problem?
This is a fun one. So about a week after incorporating, I heard about this event called Restart Utah. I mean, we're coming out of COVID. It's early 2023, and Restart Utah was an event to just help businesses in the state of Utah kickstart their year. So like any and everybody was coming. I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, we don't even have a product, let alone a website. But hey, if we're an event tech company, we should probably go get our name out there. So I spent $1,000 for a booth. I spent another $300 on Vistaprint to print out a banner and a tablecloth. And the banner said, "Badge scanners suck. Handshake to CRM in seconds. Sign up for our beta." And I put a QR code up there for people to fill out a form and sign up for our beta. At that event, we signed 4 letters of intent for future customers. And I was like, oh crap, we're on to something big if we're 3 or 4 months away from even having an MVP out here and people are already signing up to pay us money. 3 out of the 4 ended up converting to being paying customers, one of which ended up also investing with us and is one of our referral partners. So it was a very, very profitable event. And so we like, the lesson there is get your name out there. Don't wait. Like just get out there, meet people, and it's okay if you don't have something fully baked.
That is so interesting. Wow. So you get your first few customers, right? And then I am assuming you're in that process of, okay, like we need to really figure out how to iterate, get their feedback and move faster. Is there a, feedback cycle that you sort of develop with your early customers?
Yeah. So going back to before that event, even. So again, my co-founder, Chris, he comes from bigger business and he was very, very well paid at a publicly traded company running channel partnerships. It was hard to convince him to leave that life and start a company with me, make no money, and pay our own money to do it. But he's always wanted to be a founder. So he said, you know what, let's do the product thing. His back, like I said, he's been a product leader for years. And let's go actually interview people before we build anything. So we spent the fall of 2022 interviewing 30 companies, like deep hour-long interviews, and making sure that this was not a Zach problem, that this was an industry problem. Everybody said, yep, this is a big problem. So then that was enough conviction for us to spend $4,000 to build a prototype in Figma with a dev shop. They built the prototype, and then we spent December of 2022 showing that prototype to the same 30 people. 29 of the 30 said, yes, please build this. I will buy it. So that was our initial feedback loop. Validate the problem, build some wireframes in Figma, validate that this would solve their problem. And that was enough conviction for us to incorporate and actually make it a real thing. So beyond that, ironically, this is probably not the answer you're looking for. The app looks exactly how I envisioned it 2 years ago. Like, there are no major iterations whatsoever. This is exactly what I wanted to build from the get-go. There are little features that we've added, and the way we do that is absolutely talking with our customers all the time, gathering their feedback, making sure that this would actually provide a lift to the business and that it would impact more than just this one customer. But we have a great dev team that listens, and they churn out those updates very, very quickly. We prioritize fixes and small improvements above anything else. Yeah, that's how we do it.
That's amazing. So you have these 29 that say yes, you all go build it out further. You all start winning new customers. That's just amazing. So at this stage of the game, like, what are some like tactics that you all are using to essentially continue like scaling?
So are you talking about just the company in general, how we're...
Yes.
Yeah. So we are, like, we don't have big budgets. Like $2.5 million is not a lot of money when you're trying to grow, right? We have employees that we pay salaries to. That money's going to be gone like this if we don't sell. So we are intentionally very, very loud on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And we post funny, educational, and useful content daily across several of our employees that have rather large following, just to keep Mobley on their minds. And then we eat our own dog food. Being an event tech company, we go to so many events. In fact, one of my sales reps is at the Databricks AI Summit right now in San Francisco. We're not exhibiting there. It's not like the attendees aren't necessarily our audience, but every exhibitor is our audience. So he bought a pass and he's walking the trade show floor talking to the exhibitors. We do that all the time. We go to way more events than a company our size should be going to, because that is where people are most feeling the pains that we solve.
Absolutely. So would it be more today of like an inbound game versus versus like a traditional outbound sales motion?
It depends on how you define event leads. If you count those as inbound leads, yes. I think they're kind of in the middle of inbound and outbound. We do get a lot of inbound through organically, through referrals, through us being loud on LinkedIn. We started experimenting with paid ads, and they're going decently well. We have a podcast and webinars. Like, we're doing a lot,
Okay.
but not a lot of it, if that makes sense. We're doing lots of things, but we haven't gone super deep on any of it. I have 2 sales reps, and they are outbounding for sure, but it's not a heavy outbound shop yet. Will we get there? Absolutely.
Sure. So You said that you're posting on LinkedIn every day. How are you sort of measuring LinkedIn attribution to into a closed one?
So I mean, number one, we tag lead source in our
Okay,
CRM,
sure.
and then we ask people how they heard about us. So we will make a note of LinkedIn, friend, customer, investor, whatever, as well. So not only do we have the channel through which they came in, like maybe they heard about us from LinkedIn, but they filled out a web form. We don't just say that was an inbound web form, and it was an inbound web form that heard about us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like, all of us have, of course, made a ton of mistakes, right? I mean, what are two or three mistakes that you feel that you all have made looking back that could have been avoided to a certain extent?
Well, I haven't made any mistakes at all. So no, the biggest one, the absolute biggest one is once we signed a term sheet for our seed round, um, you hear that it takes a while to close, right? Which is true. Knowing that, we're like, well, we want to make sure to validate these investors that are betting on us. So we need to keep growing. So let's go hire our sales team. Let's hire more. We started making hires and spending money before the money was actually in the bank.
Ouch.
And the round took longer to close than we anticipated. So it got to the point the last month or so where myself, my co-founder, my CTO, we were funding the company from our own pockets, which is not cheap when you had at that point we had about a dozen employees. So incredibly painful, panic attack inducing, like literally I got medicated because of how stressful it was. Don't spend money till it's in the bank. Things take longer, deals take longer, investments take longer. Just be patient and wait. It's not the end of the world if it takes you an extra month, as long as you're not spending that money early. So that would be a big one. Another big one I would say is just be very thoughtful on what you invest in. So in the early stages of a company, there are lots of people that are competing for your attention and for your dollars. And most of them would make sense to do at some point. But just be real with yourself at the stage your company is in. Do you really need to be spending $5,000 a month with a marketing agency? Or can that $5,000 be spread a little bit further by doing a few other things at this stage? Maybe a marketing agency isn't the best example because I also am a big believer in over investing in marketing early to boost yourself up. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to have everything right from the get-go. It's okay to keep being scrappy for a while.
Yeah, that's for sure. You said that you got medicated at one stage. How do you manage your like mental health today?
I'm not great at it, but yeah, I run a lot. I work out a lot, so that's good. I do a lot of cold plunges, which I think really help just release some endorphins and get me in a good mental state. And I'm open and honest about things. So I talk about things with friends, with family, with coworkers. I don't just like keep it bottled in, which a lot of founders feel like they have to do. Like they have to have a straight face and constantly be positive. Yeah. One of our core values is transparent AF. So we don't hold anything back from the team or from people externally. As long as we can ethically share it, we will share it.
Sure.
And that I think helps us make a lot more progress on things and make sure that solutions that are available to us, including help when you're struggling mentally, are available. Like, you're never going to get help if you don't talk to somebody.
That's for sure, Zach. When you I mean, for me, like one of the things which is extremely difficult to do is to manage work-life balance. I think the work-life piece seems to be totally off. I think it's more of like an integrated life now more than anything else. So how do you sort of manage your day, your week to ensure that your family, your 5 kids, everyone has the right attention that they need while you continue to be focused on Mobley and ensuring that it's scaling as per everyone's expectations?
Super funny that you use the word integrated, because I say that all the time. I say that work-life balance is a myth,
Yeah.
but instead we should be striving for work-life integration. Being a married father of 5, that it's hard, right? Like it's hard because my kids, they all do extracurricular activities and I want to be there for them.
For sure.
We've come to terms with the fact that I can't be there for everything. Like sometimes I just have to travel and I'll miss a game or a recital, but when I am available, I go. And we also recognize that if I'm on vacation with the family, I might have to take a work call. And like I can't entirely shut off it. Like for my role at the stage our company is at, that's not reasonable. Like something could kill the company if I don't make myself available to fix problems, to solve issues or whatever. But that also means that my family is allowed to interrupt my workday. So I work from home occasionally. My 5-year-old who just finished up preschool, sometimes like when our nanny was unavailable, my wife was working, I would bring him into the office and he would come hang out while I was working. And like it's never taboo for them to show up and say hi to people. And we do a lot of that. We have our summer kickoff for the company and I'm hosting a barbecue at my house.
Oh,
So
nice.
my family is invited to that. It's not like they can't come, and they get to spend time with me while I'm still doing work things. I think that's a really great way to do it.
Yeah. That's amazing, Zach. Um, Being a founder, is I mean, to me at least, one of one of like the best things that I've ever done for myself. I think betting on myself has just been amazing.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for folks that are looking to sit in this founder seat?
You have to be a special brand of stupid to be a founder. I was talking to a very good friend of mine, a fellow founder, yesterday, and he's going through a lot of the same mental things. He's super stressed about money. It's affecting every aspect of his life. And he said, like, yeah, we're a special brand of crazy. Like we are. Like so just know, being a founder is not as glamorous as people think. There's definitely upside. So if you want to found a company, recognize that you need to be a risk taker. You need to be okay with gambling, because you are gambling with a lot of things. You will work harder than you've ever worked in your entire life. But if you're the right kind of person, you will never be happier. Like in spite of all of the stress that I'm dealing with, in spite of financial hardships that we've gone through, in spite of not knowing whether our company would make it or not, I've never had more fun. I've never been more happy, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So in order to offset the risk and the stress, if you're thinking about starting something, do it as soon as you possibly can. The earlier in your life stage you can, the better, because there's less downside of failing. And go all in. I don't, like, people say all the time that it's okay to start it as a side hustle. I don't know if I agree with that. You're not really founding something. It's a side hustle. Side hustles are great, but if you want it to be big, if you want it to be a big thing that takes over the world, if you're dreaming big and thinking big, then you have to dip your whole body in. You can't dip a toe in and be all in, or else you're never going to get the traction that you want to make it a real thing.
That's for sure. That's amazing, Zach. So how can folks keep up with you and Mobley?
I'm super accessible on LinkedIn. That's how we got connected.
Yeah.
So if you look up Zach Barney, there's a cell phone in front of my name to weed out spammers. So LinkedIn thinks my first name is cell phone and my last name is Zach Barney. But I just so look up that, getmobley.com. is how you can learn more about our company. And the easiest way to get in touch with me is a real human interaction on LinkedIn. I absolutely will not respond to a robot, but if it's a real human note with context and something interesting, I'll respond to you.
That's amazing, Zach. Well, awesome. Zach, thank you so much for giving us some time today. Really appreciate it. Learned a lot about you, learned a lot about Mobley, and we look forward to keeping up with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to do it, and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Zach.